And hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, y'all. Happy Monday. As I always say, hope you had a great weekend and you had a great Monday. In today's fast-paced world, convenience is often supreme, right? So we do everything for convenience. Those ubiquitous foods, right, that we eat, all of those that line the shelves, the supermarkets, the packages, the bright colors, boasting long shelf lives and promising quick, tasty solutions to our hunger. But what exactly are processed foods? And how did they rise from mere conveniences to the dominant place that they play in our lives? And what effect do they have on us as we talk about the war for your health? That's what we're doing in this episode of the show. Continuing the series on the war for your health. If you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwayne Wood. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health, your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. We're creating the life we've always wanted. If you're new to me as well, go ahead and put new in the comments. We'd love to welcome you to the community as we continue to grow and expand, and as we build for ourselves the life we have always wanted, and the life that's full of health and satisfaction in the things that we are doing. If you've got a question, go ahead and put that in the comments with a Q and a colon in front of it, that we'll know that that's a question that we need to get to. Y'all, guess what? We are now in the last part of the month of September. We are, that's right, coming down, and we're moving into the final quarter of 2023. You remember, 2023 is the year that we are using to move beyond where we are. We're using this to get unstuck, and that's been our theme for the entire year so far, starting with our show last December, where we celebrated moving into 2023. We've done several series. So let me hop over there so that you guys can take a look. Let's see. Here we are. So that is the YouTube channel. If you are out there, if you've not already done so, make sure you get to the channel. Several series that we've done there. Of course, we did a series on mastering diabetes, probably about 25, 26 videos in that series. We did the series on reinventing yourself, right? Designing a new you. We did the series that's entitled the Entrepreneur Physician, which talks about harnessing the strengths, the talents that we currently have. A lot of times we don't think we have talents. We don't think that we have things that we can use in our lives to advance ourselves, but that is not true. That's there as well. And of course, the art of letting go. If you guys remember, we did that after my experience on the raft, where I fell out while we were whitewater rafting. So make sure you get out there. If you are here right now, thank you for stopping by. And I see, let's see, Williams Sheila. Sorry. Thank you for being here. Glad that you are here. Just a shout out to you. Let's get you some hand claps and some music. We welcome you to the community, and we welcome you to the show tonight. And just one shout out from last week, we had Mohen22 Smith, who was a new person to our community. Hand clap and music as well. We are always excited when new people come by and new people can become a part of our community as we design, as we build, and as we grow. We are going into 2024, y'all, right? And we are not going into 2024 like we were in 2023. We are getting better. We're getting better in our health. We're getting better in our relationships. We're getting better in our finances. We're getting better in our mindset. We're getting better in our bodies, right? Because that's that physical part of it. So all those things, we are moving, we're improving, and we're going to talk more about that as we get into the final quarter. But to tonight's topic, we've been talking about the war for your health, the war for your health. It is a huge issue that we face around the world. As I've said before, most of the diseases that we had years ago, right? If you go back in our history, a lot of those diseases were diseases of infection, right? So we got an infection. We didn't have the medication to treat it. People got sick. They died. They lost limbs. They became invalids. We became paralyzed. So many different things that happened because of infection. We have done an excellent job, y'all, around the world at eradicating so many infections. That's not what we see anymore. What we're seeing now are diseases that are related to lifestyle. And we're not just talking about food, right? Sometimes we talk about diseases of lifestyle. Everybody harps on food, but food is not the only place. We are more busy than we've been in the past. We're more stressed than we've been in the past. We have less sleep than we had in the past. We have less connectedness. We are more isolated from each other, right? So we've become so independent that sometimes, we've got a family that lives in California and the other part of the family lives in New York. So we're farther apart. And even though we have what we call this global community with all of the devices and the electronics, we're still a lot more isolated. So when we talk about diseases of lifestyle, we're just not talking about food, but we're talking about all those things, right? We're more depressed than we've been before. So a lot of things going on. But in particular, right, we're talking about food. We're talking about food. And food is a huge, huge issue because we have allowed, I'm going to say that, we've allowed ourselves to allow convenience and some of the things that we see to usurp our health. And it's stolen some things from us in terms of our health. And tonight we're going to spend some time talking about what that means, right? So we're talking about processed food. We're talking about that war. We're talking about that, the battle that we have. Oh, I didn't need to. Yeah, there we go. Let's back up for a minute. We're talking about that battle for our food. Let's see. I will not go into 2024 the same as I did. Oh, let me come back because I love that. I love that. Come on, Williams. She said, I'm not going into 2024 the same as I did coming into this year. That is it. That's what we want. And if you saw my short that I did recently, and I'm just going to take a moment to kind of piggyback on that and say that I'm so excited. If you saw my short that I did, I think that was yesterday or today. And the short said, and you guys hear me say all the time when I come on. Hi, I'm Dr. Dwayne Wood. The Wood stands for, that's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here in the channel and what I do, I educate, I empower, and I encourage, right? Those are the words that I use. And I educate because I want to inform. I empower by providing tools. And I encourage to motivate. And those are the three components of things that we need as Williams, as you're saying, as we get into 2024. Yeah, I'm going to be pounding that over the next 3 months, y'all. In this last quarter, that's what we need. We need to be educated. We need to be empowered, and we need to be encouraged. And there's a whole bunch of things that we will talk about. But I'm so excited about that. Just hold on. It's coming. We're getting to the end of this month, and we will move into the final quarter. So as we talk about this war for our health, right? And we talk about the war for our health, and as we talk about the battle against processed foods, I want to step back for a minute and talk a little bit about the history. Let's back up, right? Let's talk a little bit about the history, a brief history of processed foods. And there are a lot of things that have happened, right? So the initial stages of food processing, it was born out of sheer necessity, right? Our world is growing. The need to preserve, right? So back in the day, they put a lot of salt in stuff, right? So this whole idea, you see the cowboys and they're chomping on a piece of beef jerky or whatever kind of jerky they made, right? So they're out there. They packed it in snow. They packed it in other things. And so processing was a natural outgrowth of just our need for keeping food longer and to be able to provide, right? So that's where it came from. And we began utilizing, right, utilizing lots of different things to stop food from becoming spoiled. So we had, salting, we had fermenting, we had sun drying, and all those things that allowed communities to have food for a long term. During times even, right, if you think about it, as our world grew, there were places where they were growing foods and we wanted to shuttle it, if you will, transport it to different places. So you may have something in California and you wanted it in New York. Well, you have to get it from California to New York. So the processing allowed us the ability to transport that food without the food becoming spoiled and so forth. Okay? And it allowed us to be able to save food. So, you had watermelon, or you had some berries, or you had some vegetable that was growing in a particular season, and people wanted to have that during another season. So for instance, it's a fall crop and we want to eat it in spring. So it allowed us to grow it in fall, preserve it, and then be able to eat it later on in spring. So once again, out of necessity. And then came the Industrial Revolution. Well, the Industrial Revolution, as the 19th century started, it really rolled around, and there was all of this this machinery. There was these advances in technology and the processing and transportation, and we had better transportation. We went from having donkey and cart to cars and trains and so forth. So all of this stuff began happening, and it allowed foods to be stored for extended periods, so longer periods without spoiling, right? And the railroads facilitated the transport of these foods to great distances. So then, right, we're kind of walking through this process. So then the post-war era. So after the Second World War, there was a significant shift in the food industry. Men were coming back, right? Women had been home, and they were the ones that were cooking. Well, actually, they were the ones that had gone out, and they were out of the home now, doing the jobs that men were doing. And so when the men came home, the woman was already out there doing that job. And so now the guys are at home, right? And they didn't really know cooking and all those types of things. So it became convenient to have processed foods. And then along came the microwave. And so those processed dinners, dad would just grab one, and that was the meal for the night because mom was out working, right? She's on the line. So as modern processing technologies came about, advancement in food science, right, in the late 20th century, early 21st century, and that brought with it this atmosphere of just advanced freezing techniques, so that no longer was it, okay, we had to put so much salt, we'll talk about salt in a minute, but we could actually take something, freeze dry it, or freeze it, and preserve it. And so we had that for the whole time. So that was the thing that happened as food became a more, or we had the ability to process it and to keep it and so forth, right? So then there's this lure, right? The irresistible lure of convenience, right? So we're going through this stuff right here. The irresistible lure of convenience. So we now, and that is continuing today, this lifestyle that we have, it was a busy lifestyle. So no longer the ability to just get together and cook and all the things that were going on before, we became more busy, right? I think I tell, the story all the time that this past weekend, Friday, right? Starting from Friday through Saturday and Sunday, my son, his schedule was busier than mine, right? But of course, we are the transportation. And so his schedule is busy. Guess what? Our schedule is busy. My wife is working. I'm working. My son's working, right? I'm doing what I'm doing right now, talking with you guys and providing service, providing a way to educate, encourage, empower. I'm doing, my day job, which is my brick and mortar. So we've got to practice an endocrine practice. So all of those things, our lives became much busier than they were before. And so all of that, it made it attractive to have food that was ready made. Right? Because we didn't have to do it anymore. We didn't have to go and cook and clean and all that stuff. We can go, we can buy something. It was already made and we put it together and boom. Right? And then urbanization. The urbanization. That also caused an interesting process. So the urban sprawl meant that the places, we had less access to fresh foods from farms. So we weren't living anymore near those. So now we're in the city, and in the city there wasn't all of this ability to grow and to cultivate. And so now in came what? That's right, supermarkets. So markets came in to fill that gap, and stocking up on processed foods made it easy for families to not have to travel out to the farm, but they can go to the grocery store, get something, save it in the house, right? And then, right, on top of that, this is part I love, right? So I'm a foodie, I'll admit it. That's right, I'm the endocrinologist, I'm a foodie. So the ability, y'all, listen to this. The ability to try different types of foods. So Chinese food, right? There was Italian food. There was French food. There was Korean. So all of these different cultures now, because of the ability to preserve, because of the ability to freeze, because of the ability to transport, all of these, the ability to have this culinary exploration where people were trying and doing different things. And that spurred the processing. Because now, oh yeah, I want something from wherever. And you were able to get that because boom. And then there were the social influences. So now we could go out and hang out with families. We can go out and hang out with friends. We didn't have to stay at home. We didn't have to have a dinner party at the house. So it became a luxury now, so that we can go and we can eat. And the processing exploded because slowly we went from sitting down around the table and we went to being able to go out and just hang out with family and friends. And over there, the taste of the food, yeah, sometimes it's better than what we had at the house. Okay? So in essence, the rise of processed food is not just a tale of technology and advancement, but it's also a reflection of kind of the social culture that shifted, right, in our society. While they cater to our palates and our evolving lifestyle, it also is essential, right, for us to embrace all of that so that we could change, right? So we were able to now do more things, quote unquote, in our lives. We'll talk about that as we get into more conversation. Do more things in our lives because we didn't have to do the cooking. We didn't have to do that. And the food was processed. And so that gave us that ability, that flexibility. Yep. So all of this is great, y'all. This is amazing. This is terrific. It's wonderful. Yeah? But there's always a balance that we have to play. And the balance here and the question that we ask is, are there dark side, or is there a dark side to processed food? And so unmasking the dark side of processing processed food. And I'm going to pause here to say that this is not intended to demonize processing. There is a place for processing. There is benefit to processing. It allows us, as I've mentioned, the convenience. It allows us to feed people. It allows us to transport food. All of those things are good things. But there always has to be a balance, right? So when we talk about unmasking the dark side of processed foods, well, let's talk about the nutrition. So with this processing, right? With this processing, the manufacturing process often involves heating, drying, and various treatments of the food to put it in a form that is ready for preservation, ready for storage. And when we heat food and I'm not talking about just heating food like you cook at the house, right? So when you cook at the house, the temperature that let me come over here. When we cook food at the house, the temperature that we use to cook the food is just enough for us to process that food here, get the meat denatured, to get the rice cooked and so forth. So we use a certain temperature. When we're talking about processing, the temperatures that they use to be able to dry and transform and put food in a certain form, right? So essential vitamins like vitamin C, right? Some of the B vitamins, all of those, and some of the minerals are boiled out, heated out, baked out, right? All of those. And so now the food doesn't have that nutrient, or it's not as nutrient rich. Let me say it that way. Okay. Excuse me. The refining process, refining woes, right? So we take whole grain, right? And we got to do a whole show on grain. We take whole grain and we refine it. And we produce items like white bread, white rice. The process of refining that, though, strips out a lot of the nutrients from it. Right. So the layers, right? Because what we're doing is we're basically polishing the rice. We take a rice and we polish it and we take off a lot of the nutrients, a lot of the layers that's there. And it leads to a significant reduction in the fiber, right? The amount of fiber that's there, the vitamins, the minerals. And then over time, right, relying heavily on that, if that's all I'm eating, then I don't get from that food the things that I need, right? I don't get those vitamins. I don't get the fiber. So when you eat rice, let's say you eat white rice, the fiber that would have been in it is gone. Yeah. And so then what we do is we take that food, we process it. In the processing, we were refining it, and that process strips out some of the nutrients and vitamins and minerals and fiber from it. And so then now we take that food and we go back and we enrich it. Yeah. So we put back into it what we took out of it. And that sounds like a great idea because we want to make the food better, right? Let's assume we had to do the refinement. It did what it did to the food. It stripped it. And now we are trying to make it better, right? And some of the manufacturing enrichment processes, the products that we use and that we add back in, right? This sounds like a good idea, but it might not be a good idea. It might not be a great idea. Is the stuff we're adding back more bioavailable? Are we putting too much? Is it the natural form? It can lead to potential discrepancies, right, in how we absorb it and ultimately how our body uses it. Does that make sense? Yeah. And then preservatives. the processing of the food, right? We're trying to make the food last longer on the shelf. Now, I'm can I? Oh, should I do that? Am I gonna get in trouble? I don't know. We're gonna say it anyway. So I went to a friend of mine. Said, hey, go to the store and you can get turkey salami. All right, turkey salami. So I went. Yes, I did. Went. She said, oh, this is so good. So I went and I was looking for this salami, and so I went to the freezer part, right? Because I figured, salami is going to be in the cold cut section in the freezer part, and they did have some there. But I'm walking down and I was getting some other stuff, and I passed by the aisle with paper plates and plasticware, and right on the end cap where they show that they have food and stuff. And I saw there was a whole end cap full of turkey salami, right? And so I go to the manager and I said to him, hey, I was looking for some turkey salami and I saw that you had some over there in the freezer part, right? Where they have the cold cuts. And he said, yeah. I said, but I also noticed that you have some right here at the end cap. And he said, yeah. I said, how? Why? How could you do that? He said, well, this right here doesn't need to be refrigerated. I said, what? It doesn't need to be refrigerated? He said, no. He said when they processed it, they've processed it to the point where the meat does not have to be refrigerated. That's all I'm saying. Well, no, that's not all I'm saying. So the processing of the food, while it allows us to store it, it allows us to do all kinds of stuff, transport it. Yeah, it. What do you have to do to meat to process it to the point where it doesn't have to be stored? Now, there's all kinds of other things that have been done in the past. For instance, jerky and so forth. That we've had that for years, and that's not in the storage section either, right? And that's how a lot of people in the past preserved meat, right? They made jerky out of it and so forth. Yeah. All right. So the dark side is what we're talking about. The dark side of processed food. Well, in addition to what I've talked about so far, there are other hazards. There are other hazards that come from processing food. So other potential health hazards. Like what? Well, some artificial colors, right? You see that right there? See the food, how I did that? Some artificial colors have been linked to allergies for some people, okay? Because you got colors, right? So you got to color the food and so forth. And there's a whole show that we can do on food coloring, right? Because a lot of the food that we eat, the color of the food that we eat is not actually the normal color of the food. Yeah. Should I get into that some more? Right. So it's not the normal coloring of the food, right? There are certain foods that we associate with a particular color. That's not the color, right? Like when you make, I want to say butter, for example. When you make butter, what color do you think butter is when it comes out? We all associate. If I say butter to you, right? What color do you think? You think yellow, right? But butter is actually not yellow. But okay, right? All right, so that's it. So potential health hazards, right? So there's all the allergies that can happen. Certain additives might disrupt hormones, right? So these are the hormones, right? As soon as I said that, it went out of my head. Hormone disruptors, sorry. Hormone disruptors. They disrupt hormones. And I'm talking about not just, I was going to say not just thyroid, but thyroid is a big one, right? So thyroid, estrogen, testosterone, progesterone. So all those hormones that are in our body that are responsible for regulating different parts of our system, there are certain foods that have been shown to disrupt those hormones. And it causes excessive amounts of different hormones that causes other issues in our system, in our bodies. Do you know that the age for menarche is decreasing compared to what it was years ago? And we believe that some of that has to do with the food that we're eating. I think the average age of an African American for menarche is 8, y'all. 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. Huge. Okay? So that is an incredible thing. The other thing is when we talk about the hormones, right? So how about the cocktail of hormones? So people say, oh, well, that not cocktail of hormones, but cocktail of things that are in the food. They say, okay, that particular one, that particular color, that particular chemical, that particular processing by itself doesn't cause an issue, right? But what about the combination of them? When we don't know what that does because we've tested, we've studied, okay, that color, we've studied that processing, we've studied that that way of making food more palatable. But when you put them all together, maybe there's something that's going on, right? The combination can cause issues. And then y'all, this one right here is big. This one right here is big. So it is this thing that I've mentioned before. And well, let me go through this and then I'll come back to the term, right? So when we talk about processing, we talk about this threesome: sugar, salt, and fat. Those are the three. Those are the big three. Do you know that most of the food that you eat because of one and or a combination of these three things? How the food tastes, what it feels like. Is there enough sugar in it? Does it taste enough salt? And is it rich? Right? Now, I'm gonna step aside from a processed food, and let's talk about a non-processed food, right? And I don't want all the meat people to jump on me, right? And I'm not talking about whether you should eat meat or not, but I like steaks. I'm gonna say it. Hey, I'm not vegetarian. I'm not vegan. I used to be, and I'm working on that. But anyway, so when you take a steak, the more marbling it has, marbling, the fat that's in it, the better the steak tastes. Yeah. So you take that and you put it on the grill, right? You fire up the grill, you get that steak, and it's sizzling, right? And you pop it down, right? And all those juices that are rolling off of it, you bring it, you put it on the plate, you cut it, boom. Right? The more marbling, the better it is. So there's this thing that we see when it comes to food, right? The sugar content, right? In order to process food, sometimes they're saying they're making it healthier, but we are putting a lot of sugar, excess sugar, added sugar, which can predispose to spikes in blood sugar, right? So we get those highs that we've talked about before, and then we get those crashes because of the sugar that's there. Heart disease as a result of sugar, because the most common cause of heart disease is diabetes, or one of the leading cause, right? Dental cavities. So all of those things can cause a problem. So sugar is in there. And then salt, right? Overload of salt. In order to preserve, we've got to put a lot of salt. Going back to the turkey salami, right? When you bit into one of those things, oh my goodness, the amount of salt that's in there. Processed foods have an elevated amount of sodium. So not just for the taste, but also for the preservation. And then the fat, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Not all fats are created equal, right? But processed foods often contain trans fats, high saturated fats, and this can be harmful. They can raise your LDL, which is your bad cholesterol. If you need to know something about cholesterol, you can go back. We did a show on that, right? So cholesterol. Our bodies need cholesterol, but not all that we give it. And then there's this term, and let me put that all together, this term called the bliss point. The bliss point, the bliss point, bliss point. So what is the bliss point? The bliss point is the point at which there is just enough sugar, just enough salt, and just enough fat in a food that makes you say, I got to have another one of those. I got to have some more of that. Right? So that's the bliss point. And that's going to come up here in just a moment as we talk about one of the other complications of another one of the complications of processed food. All right, so let's see who's out there. I see Williams Sheila. She said it's loaded with preservatives, right? So food, yes, foods are loaded with preservatives nowadays. And so as we're talking about different foods, some of them have more than others, right? Because they process them in different ways. And so once again, we're talking about the war for your health. The war for your health. Educating, empowering, and encouraging, right? So let me pause here and say, if you've not already done so, if you know somebody who needs to be in this community, if you know somebody who needs to watch one of these videos that we've done, if you know somebody who needs to come into a community, who needs to get unstuck, someone who you're looking at, you've listened to them, you've been talking to them, and they're like, man, I need to do something with my life. I got to get healthier. I've got to work on my mindset. I've got to work on my stress. I've got to work on my sleep. This is the place. This is the community for them. Come on in. Let's join together as we grow. And we're heading, 2024 is coming soon. And I would love to be a part of the community, part of the support team for you and your family. Go back and make sure that you get to our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is there. You'll see all the videos that we've done. Want to make sure that you know that all of them are there. There are lots of series that we've done. And as we walk through the year, we're building, right? So we're building each one on the next because we're providing what? Education. We're providing empowerment by giving tools, and we're providing encouragement to motivate. Okay. Also, you may or may not have been over yet to our website, Dwayne Wood MD. So make sure you get over there as well, and you will see not just our show, you'll see our blog, lots of good articles that we've done on the blog, healthier alternatives to popular foods, the environment, and health and beyond, navigating the final quarter, right? So that was one that we did to kind of whet your appetite a couple of weeks ago for this next quarter that we're about to get into. Make sure you get out there and read that. Time blocking, right? How do we organize time? Because if you are not organized, then the things that we talk about in terms of healthy eating and cooking and exercising and getting good sleep and building this new version of yourself, if we're not managing our time, that gets to be a problem. Okay. And then, of course, our podcast, if you want to listen to what we do here on the show and you want to share that with somebody, you're traveling, you're driving, you're going to sleep, you are, in the car, you just need something to listen to. Hey, turn me on. All right. Listen to Dr. Dwayne Wood, and it's called Do You Know with Dr. Dwayne Wood. Awesome. All right. So we are once again talking about, we're talking about the war for your health. The war for your health. And in particular today, we're talking about the processing of food. We're talking about processing food. That's what we're doing right now. So we just talked about the other hazards. Talking about the other hazards that we see. Potential health hazard beyond that, the sugar. And we just talked a little bit about the bliss point. The bliss point is that point at which there is just enough sugar, just enough salt, and just enough what? Fat, right? The bliss point. So what is the link? What is the link between processed foods and chronic disease? Processed food and chronic disease. All right. So the first one, let's hop there. So the first one is obesity. So the obesity epidemic is astounding, y'all. I think I just read, I just read just today in one of my journals, and they were talking about the fact that 21 states have reported that 35% or more of the people in their state, that's the population of the state, 21 states are obese. 21 states so far. And that number is growing. I think when they did that, and I want to go back, don't quote me on the date, right? So this was comparing, 2022 compared to either 2016 or 2018. So back then it was 17 states. We've gone to 21 states are reporting this problem of obesity. Big issue. And we're seeing those, and it's becoming a big issue, becoming a big problem, right? So processed food, especially packed with sugars and unhealthy fats, right? They tend to be calorie dense. The stretch of the stomach is due to the amount of food, the volume of food that we put in there. And the stretch is a signal, hey, that I'm full. But if I don't get the stretch because I'm eating calorie-dense foods, those snack foods, right? We're consuming those, and they lead to weight gain. The seduction of the palate to processed food, especially those packed with all those sugars, right? The unhealthy fats, right? Talk about that bliss point. You're like, oh, thank you. Give me some more of that. Right? So we get that caloric overload. And the thing is that if we take the food in its natural form, right, it already sometimes has some sugars in it, some natural sugars. And then on top of that, we add sugar. Right? So we're crafting that irresistible place is what we're doing. The irresistible taste, let me say that. Okay? So the obesity epidemic. So how about the impact on our metabolism, right? Some studies suggest that additives and preservatives, the processing, can affect your metabolic rate. It makes it harder to burn those extra calories. So not only are we packing on more calories, but now the body, it finds it harder to process those calories. Right? Also, remember, we just talked about those endocrine disruptors that can alter our endocrine system, our hormones. Yeah. Heart disease, diabetes, and beyond. So heart disease, right? A big player, right? The number one cause of death in the United States is heart disease. So the food has all these processed, all these trans and saturated fats. So those not only raise our bad cholesterol, but they also lower our good cholesterol. And if you remember, cholesterol, the bad and the good cholesterol, the bad cholesterol is kind of like you have a pipe and you start pushing stuff in there, and the stuff you're pushing in is clogging the pipe. All right, you got to back the pipe. Yes, it's clogging the pipe. That's the bad cholesterol. The good cholesterol is kind of like a rotor-rooter, and it gets in there and it roots out the bad cholesterol that's there, so it clears the pipe up. So if I'm putting more bad cholesterol and I'm decreasing the stuff that cleans it out, the good cholesterol, then I've got a big problem, right? So that's what we see. So heart disease goes up as a result of processed foods. Also diabetes as well, right? Mental health. How about that one? So this is more than just a physical state, right? So mood swings from fluctuating sugars, those highly concentrated sugars that are in the food, we get that big high, whoo, right? And then we get the crash. We get fluctuations in our blood sugars that cause mood change, right? It can also affect our cognition, our memory over time. This consistent consumption can increase neurodegenerative diseases, right? There's some thought that there's a link between the food that we eat and Alzheimer's disease. Did you know that? Yeah. And then, of course, addiction-like behavior. This is what I was talking about. That bliss point that we have is with the intention of making you come back for more. And so we get that hit, and then we go away, and we want that feeling again. We want that taste again. And, let me get some more. And we get that hit, we go back. Let me get some more. And then we get the fluctuating blood sugars, right? So we get the high, we get the drop, and then we want to feel it again, right? We want to feel that high again. And so we keep going back, and over the time, we're getting more and more and more weight, right? So all of that is increasing. So those are the associations with chronic disease. Huge, y'all. Huge. So when we talk about processing, when we talk about the processing of food, we're not just talking about an isolated issue. We're not talking about just, hey, we're doing this and it's healthier and we're able to get more food to different places and we can store it. We're talking about what it has to do with our health and how it impacts how we behave, how we eat, impacts our size. So this battle against processed foods has to begin with education. And as we move into continuing to talk about the war for our health, let me give you some things here in just a minute that we can begin utilizing as we're talking about this war for our health. Because this is what we have. This is this body, this health, this thing that we have right here. This is all. Because if we're healthy, we can do other things. If we're not healthy, guys, guess what? All the other things that we chase after doesn't amount to much, because we want to enjoy. We want to spend time with family. We want to be fulfilled. And if we're in pain, if we can't think properly, if we can't remember, if we develop Alzheimer's and memory loss and all the things that go on with that because of the food that we eat, what's the benefit? Yeah. Okay. All right. So if you're out there right now, and if you've not already done so, go ahead and give us a thumbs up for this video. Make sure that you are sharing this. This would be a great this great series, right? The War for Your Health, to share with some of your family members, with your friends. Let them know what we're doing. And let me take this out because it's drop this. It's shiny, right? Let them know what we're doing. Glad that you are in the community and you're joining us. This will be a great place for us to do our thought of the day. So let's hop over there right now. All right. All right. So as we get into the new quarter, into the last quarter, here is the thought of the day. What do you need to dust off? What do you need to dust off? What project, what plan, what goal have you allowed to kind of languish as the year has moved on? January 1st, you were on fire, right? You went out and you bought a treadmill. You joined a gym. You bought some clothes, some gym clothes, right? You may have gotten a membership. And January 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 weeks, you were in there, y'all. You were in there doing your thing. But that's kind of fallen away by the side. You had a plan. You were going to buy a house this year. And you were researching. And you were saving. And you were getting all your stuff together. You'd gone to the bank maybe, or you're thinking about going to the bank. You're deciding which neighborhood, and that's kind of gone away by the wayside. You were planning to transition into a new job, a job that gave you better pay, a job that gave you better time to spend with the family, a job that gave you better fulfillment, and you got tired. Maybe it was a little difficult. Maybe you ran into the fact that you needed a new certification and you allowed that to go by the wayside. Maybe you were interested in starting a YouTube channel, a podcast, a newsletter. You were interested in organizing and connecting with family again and starting up a family reunion that you wanted to do. But all of those you've allowed to kind of go by the wayside. So what projects were you planning to do that you've allowed to languish? Maybe you got scared. Maybe there were some things that you didn't want to face. Maybe there were some relationships that you needed to rebuild. Maybe there were some financial goals that you had. And you've allowed those to languish as well. Y'all, it is the fourth quarter. It's about to start. It's coming. The fact that those projects, the fact that those plans, the fact that those dreams, the fact that all those things that you had have not been done yet, or you're partway through them, or you're getting a little tired and you're getting a little discouraged, that doesn't mean that that's your reality. That doesn't mean that they have to stop. That doesn't mean that you can't still do them. So we're heading into the fourth quarter. We can see 2024 right in front of us. Your blood sugars may not be what you thought you wanted them to be this year. Your weight may not be what you thought it wanted to be. You didn't lose as much. Your A1C didn't go down as much. You weren't able to get off of all of those diabetes drugs and medications that you wanted. You may still have some pain. That relationship may still not be rebuilt. But that doesn't mean that that's your reality. It doesn't mean that that's your permanent reality. Let me say that. Because we, you and me, this community, we can create the life that we've always wanted. By education, by empowerment, and by encouragement. So, what project, what plan have you allowed to languish? I encourage you to dust it off, put on your running shoes, tighten up your belt, and get ready. Because this final quarter, we're making that push. We're moving into 2024 better than 2023. It's going to be a different year. It's going to be a different you. It's going to be a different me. We're going to be in a different space. We're not staying stuck anymore. But come on, let's do it together. And that's my challenge to you. Find that project. Find the project. Join this community and let's move forward into 2024. And that's our thought for today. All right. So, what do we do, y'all? So, this is part one. This is part one of this segment, right? This episode is going to come in a couple parts, right? Remember, we're talking about the war for your health. That's the series that we're doing. But this talk, the battle against processed foods, is going to come in several parts. So, this is part one. Today, what I want to challenge you to do, is begin looking at food labels. Begin looking at food labels. So look at it and notice in the ingredients, if you are seeing things that you don't recognize, poly something, right? All those words, the high fructose corn syrup. If that's the first thing, I want you to begin using foods that are less processed. They have things that you recognize. And I'm gonna give an example, right? This is not exhaustive, right? So if you're gonna go out and you're gonna buy a can of, let's say, beans, that's all that you should. It should be beans, water, maybe some salt. But if you see a whole lot of other things out there that you don't recognize, that's not a can that you should buy. Now, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about some things to do as we move more to whole foods. Right? But for right now, let's begin cleaning up the foods that we are eating. Let's look for packages, cans, frozen things that have simpler processing in them. Not a lot of added sugar, not a lot of added color, not a lot of added salt. So that's your assignment. And we're going to come back, we're going to talk more about how we continue to war for our health, but more importantly, specifically in these next few segments on the battle against processed foods. I'm so glad that you were out there. If you've not already done so, go ahead, give us a thumbs up on this episode, and on our channel, go ahead and like, share, view, consume the other offerings that we have there. A lot of the stuff that we've done, a lot of stuff I've done, a lot of the series that I've done are perfect series, perfect videos, perfect combination of things that you can do this as a group. If you got a group out there, you've got for instance, our mindset. Right? So let's go back up there. Let's see. How would I get? There we go. If you go to the YouTube channel, Reinvent Yourself, Designing a New You. Right? That series, like I said, has about 25 videos in there. That's a perfect series for you to get together with some family members, some friends. If you guys have a club, you guys have a book club, you got a personal growth club, a personal mindset club, you've got something at your church, you've got something with your doctor. You can show this to your doctor. Say, hey, say to your group, hey, let's get together and let's go through these videos together. Right? Number one, you can do that. Come back. We are moving through the rest of this year. We're moving through the rest of this final quarter of this year, and we're going to be doing some things to get us ready for the new year and to encourage, educate, empower, and encourage us for the remainder of this year. Okay? Get over to the website. Get over to our website, Dwayne Wood MD. Look at the blogs, look at the podcast, and let me say this. Some of you, if you know if you know that there is a space that you find yourself, you're not quite sure what to do, but you know you want to do something. You're not quite sure which project to dust off, but you know you want to do something. You're anxious. You're restless. You're irritable. You're not satisfied in the job that you're in the body that you find yourselves, with the blood sugars that you find yourself, with your high blood pressure, cholesterol. You're not happy with some aspect. I would love to be a part of your journey. On the website, you can go there and you can sign up for a call with me. You can go and you can sign up for a sales call with me so that we can talk about how I can become a part of your team. Notice what I said, how I can become a part of your team. Because this process that we go through, community is huge. Having somebody there that you can bounce ideas off of, have someone there that you can share with, have someone there that can be a perspective for you is so, so, so important. Okay? So get to a website. If you want to do some of the videos as a group, go ahead and do that. In fact, if you have a group and you would want me to be a part of that, you want me to come and you want me to speak, you want me to do a Zoom, you want me to do something in your group, reach out to us, reach out to me. You can do that on the website, and I would love to participate in that. And then my final ask for you, as we get into the new year, as we talk about what we're going to do 2024, one of the things I would love to do is here on the channel for some of our shows is to have a coaching conversation. This is a conversation where I talk with you, where we can share with our audience, share with our community, a conversation where we're doing actual work on becoming unstuck. You want to move into a new career. You're struggling with blood sugars. You're struggling with weight. You're struggling with sleep. You're unsure of how to get rid of the anxiety. You want to work on your wheel of life. I would love to have you on the show. Reach out to me as well. You can do that on the website so that we can begin coordinating that. That's something that I want to do as we get into the new year. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming by. Once again, give us a thumbs up. Get out and see the things that we've done on the website, on the YouTube channel. And we will see you next week for more on the war for your health, the battle against processed food. Thank you. Good night. See you at the next episode.